I'm Thomas.
And I'm Paul.
We're coming to you live from the biography section at the Clearwater East Community Library.
And we're going to show you how easy it is to make a home-built cigar box guitar.
Let's get started. Here's what you need to get started. Most of what you see here is already included in your kit, but you'll have to provide some of these items. You're going to need Elmer's glue or wood glue, sandpaper or sanding pads, a medium-sized screwdriver and a very fine screwdriver. Everything else we've included in the kit for you. We've got a cigar box, guitar strings, headstock and reinforcing block, neck, tuning pegs and hardware, and assorted screws. The first step is to start by gluing our wooden parts. Lay some glue down on the neck, and on the cigar box, note the inlet holes. This is where your neck's going to go. Place the neck into the cigar box. And close the lid to get an idea of the fitment. The next step is to add our reinforcing block. The reinforcing block goes on the side of the guitar that's opposite where the lid hinges. Add some glue on both sides, and once again, close the lid. Once we have our glue down and our lid closed, we're going to take some of our number 6 by 1 inch screws. The first screw goes right above the hole that's drilled above our reinforcing block. The second screw goes above the neck. It's good to get the screws started before you start screwing them in with your screwdriver. Next, we're going to flip the cigar box over and find the third hole that is located underneath the reinforcing block. Once we have all of our screws tightened down, there's a total of 3 on the cigar box, we're going to be working on our headstock. Note the holes that are for the tuning pegs as well as the inlet holes that screw into the neck. You're going to take 2 more of our number 6 by 1 inch screws and get them started, going in on the side with the inlet. Start them through the headstock and let a little bit of the screw protrude over the other side. This helps you place the headstock on the neck during glue up. Note the holes on the neck as well. Add some glue to both the headstock and the neck. Fit and tighten your screws. Be sure to wipe off any excess glue that is seeping out of your joints. Extra glue coming out of there is a good sign that we have a nice glue up. Once we have everything put together, let it dry for 24 hours to give it time to strengthen. After your guitar has dried for 24 hours, it's time to install the tuning pegs. You should have received 3 in your kit, as well as 3 escutcheons. In order to install our tuning pegs, we're going to use our number 4 by 1/2 inch screws. Each tuning peg needs 2 screws. Position your tuning peg going through the hole from the back. Note the 2 markings for each screw and place your tuning pegs above the markings. We always want our pegs to be pointed out. To function properly, our tuning pegs have to have the peg towards the outside of the guitar so that they can be turned to tune the guitar. Use your number 4 by 1/2 inch screws to install the tuning pegs. Once you have your screws tightened, add the escutcheons for a finished look.
All right, in the kit we've included 3 guitar strings. These are acoustic strings. So when if you need to replace the strings in the future, you always want to use acoustic strings rather than electric guitar strings. You could also use nylon strings, but the main thing is they have to be acoustic. And on this particular kit that we've assembled for you, there are 3 different gauges of string. The string that's going to be at the very top of the guitar, and for some reason it's a little backwards, it's going to be known as the bottom string because it's the thicker string. The bottom string is a .44 gauge, and then the next gauge is going to be the middle string, and that's a .34 gauge, and then the last string is going to be a .26 gauge, and that's the order they're going to be going into. And if you go to the music store and you need to buy a set of strings, you would just ask for an acoustic set of strings. And actually all you really need is the third, the fourth, and the 5th string of any acoustic set, and that will work for the guitar. These guitars, cigar box guitars, since there are only 3 strings, they're going to be tuned in the fashion of what's called a 1-5-1 tuning structure. So the first string is going to be tuned to a root note, and then the middle string is going to be tuned to the 5th of that, and then the last string is going to be the same as the first string. And I can get into more detail that later in another video. But in any case, I'm going to put the string on. 2 of them have already been put on, and we'll show you how to. This is pretty simple. It's pretty easy to do, and basically we're going to unwrap the string. And when you unwrap the string, there's a pointy edge here, so you might just be mindful of the string. You don't want to wave it around carelessly. You don't want to poke yourself in the eye with it. So just be careful of that. So we're going to take, on one end of the string, there's a little steel ball that most strings are set up this way. They'll have this configuration. And then the other end, you can see where the winding stops here. So we're just going to take, and at the bottom of the guitar, the holes have been pre-drilled. So we're going to take this string and put it through the open space and draw it through, and then bring it up to the tuning peg. And when you always have a lot of excess with any guitar strings that you install. So basically we're going to pull it through, and we're going to allow maybe an inch or 2, and that's about it. Because if you have too much play here, you'll be winding and winding and winding almost endlessly. So I'm going to bring it through, and we're not going to have too much play there. And at that point, I'm going to bend the string and then put it underneath and just let it go with that. And I'm going to use my index finger of my right hand to hold that down. And at this point, I'm going to start winding the string. And you can use a winding tool. They sell these at guitar stores and music shops, probably $2 or $3. It's a pretty handy thing to have because you can get the strings on and off a lot quicker with it. So I'll put that on there and just wind it up. And I'm keeping some pressure on the string so it doesn't move around a little bit. And there we go. Ideally, you want to have probably 2 or 3 windings around the peg. And then you just tighten it up and get some tension on there. When you put the strings on for the very first time, I would put some tension on them and let it probably sit for an hour or so they can stretch out. And then the first few times you play it, it'll probably need to be tuned out, because like anything, guitar strings will stretch. So you may need to retune frequently after you initially put them on. But that's it. All right. We've got the 3 strings on the guitar, and I want to point out that at either end of the string we have some threaded screws. Very simple materials. You probably have some laying around your house, but we're going to use the threaded screws for what's called the nut and the bridge. At the end of the guitar where the tuning pegs are, this is known as the guitar nut, and at the end this is going to be the bridge. So right here, so basically the music on any instrument like the guitar is going to occur between the bridge and the nut. So that's where the tone comes from. After the nut and before the bridge, where the strings are, there's no, they can vibrate when they're struck, but there's not going to be any tone produced. There might be a little high-pitched tone here, but for the most part, everything happens between the bridge and the nut, and that's where the tone comes. And you can use threaded screws. Sometimes you could use a piece of plastic. If you use a piece of plastic for the bridge or the nut material, you may have to cut grooves into it so the strings can stay in position. The good thing about using this threaded screw type material is it's got the threads on it that will hold the strings in place. Okay, we've got the strings on the guitar, and sometimes, well, not sometimes, but what I like to do is after the strings, you can see that there's some excess string material here. So you get a pair of wire clippers and you would snip off the excess material. I found through experience that if I don't snip off the excess material as I'm playing the instrument, it could come up and hit me in the face, or and it's just unsightly as well. So just get a pair of clippers and you can cut off the excess. So there we go. We've got the 3 strings on here, and I've drawn the frets. This instrument does not have frets on it. You can put frets on if you want, but the kit that you're getting does not have frets. But we'll be including a template that you can use. So when you assemble your Cigar Box guitar kit, you can use the template to identify where the fret markers or the fret positions will be. And by knowing where the fret areas are, that'll help you as far as playing. And this is a 22-inch scale guitar. Generally, some guitars you can have 22 inches, 23 inches, 24 inches. It depends on how much of a box you're working with and how long you want the neck to be. This one we put together for you is 22-inch scale, and that basically means that it's 22 inches from the bridge to the nut, 22 inches. So the template that we'll be including with your kit will have the position marked out so that when you can draw the frets on, you'll have the proper scale. So there we go.
I think it turned out pretty good.
Well, the question is, how does it sound?
Check it out.
All right. Not bad.
Sounds great. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're looking for more inspiration and information about making cigar box guitars, check out Making Poor Man's Guitars by Shane Speal and Cigar Box Guitars by David Sutton. Both are available now at the Clearwater East Community Library at SPC.